Hello, welcome to another episode of Daily Market Mastery with me, Christian Rauchenwald. On this sunny Thursday, I hope you all had a great week so far and that you didn't get burned by the corrections in the market, especially the Nasdaq yesterday. As always, in this live stream, we're going to take a look at my portfolio, my positions, and where I think certain stocks and indices are moving in the near or short-term future. Before we do that, however, as always, the usual disclaimer first. Everything that I share in this live stream / video is my personal opinion and in no way financial or professional advice of any kind. You should always do your own research, consult certified professionals, draw your own conclusions, and make your own decisions. That said, as always, also the reminder, all the tools that you see during this live stream, so the charting software, the broker, any other web tool, the strategy I'm following is all linked in the description down below. And the one thing I always recommend, if you haven't already, take the time to follow the link in the description below. There you can read the Elliott Wave principle online for free, or you can get yourself, like I did, a physical copy. Now with that, we jump to my screen here. And as you can see, we're starting the day off slightly in the red. GameStop, or let's start actually with GameStop today. We can see, if we zoom in, I made a few adjustments compared to yesterday's labeling. We're going to get to them in a second. We can see if we zoom in that we broke that, in quotes, trend line here that I mentioned yesterday, that either we have to break out here or we go down here. Honestly, I expected that our corrective pattern is done and that we will go up from here. As I also mentioned yesterday, the crucial point would be here at the $22.31 mark. So $22.31 is the crucial point. As long as we stay above that, it's still possible that our zooming out further, our corrective pattern down here is finished. And we're actually in the next impulsive pattern upwards. If we break through the 22.31 here, it would become possible, or it then just not possible, but it's then a confirmation that the corrective pattern either from here or from back here isn't finished yet, in which case this expansion here becomes relevant. That gives us, assuming this is a 5-wave impulse up already, then that could be A, B, and for wave C, the next target would be at $14.93. So if we if we break below the $22.31 mark, it becomes possible that this corrective pattern here is indeed A, B, C, and that we go down to the $14.93 mark. Now, I don't consider this likely, because for this whole thing to be a corrective pattern, that would need to be A, B, C, like a zigzag pattern. And in a zigzag pattern, wave B always subdivides into 3 waves, so into another A, B, C. But we can see with the naked eye here that subdivides into an impulsive pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, actually in that case into a leading or ending diagonal. But yeah, so still an impulsive pattern, and which makes it, not impossible. There might be a corrective pattern in there, but visually on this scale, it looks as if it's highly unlikely, which brings up the second possibility. I'm going to remove a few things from the chart right now just to make things easier to label. The second possibility is that, so possibility 1 is like we have a 5-wave impulse till here, and then most likely the correction is already done till here, because this is not a corrective pattern from the looks of it, which would then point towards 1, 2, and that would be the next wave 1, 2, which also would mean that we would have to have a corrective pattern down here, which we assume finishes here. But again, if we break the 22.31 line, then clearly that corrective pattern isn't finished yet. And in that case, our worst case scenario would be that low point at around $17.80. Because if we were to go lower than this, then obviously this cannot be the next wave 1, 2. And so that's one option, where basically our worst case scenario would be $17.18. The other option is that actually our first 5-wave impulse goes from here to here, where just the 5th wave doesn't make a new high, which happens on occasion. In which case we would currently be looking at a corrective pattern that roughly retraces all of this. And in this case, we would expect, so the question would be, where does this corrective pattern here finish? However, short term, the same limitation in quote would apply. that $22.31 price here. As long as we stay above that, we have more reason to assume that we're done with the correction here, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 further up. The moment, or if we were to break through that and we were to correct this entire impulse, the whole thing here in some way would need to subdivide as an A, B, C. Having a hard time visualizing this. Obviously, there are also combinative corrective patterns that make the whole exercise a little bit harder. So corrective patterns are not as straightforward as impulsive patterns, and that makes them harder to label. Yeah, so long story short, we'll just have to wait. I'm still overall bullish based on Elliott Wave Theory and based on the company financials, but obviously short term, it's a little bit annoying to see the downwards trend that we're currently watching here. I guess we'll see in the next couple of days if we will stay above 22.31 and actually break out from this channel that we drew down here, or if we will eventually break the 22.31 and just have sideways and slightly downwards movement for a little bit longer before the journey upwards continues. Yeah. Yeah. Now, before we move on to the next stock, I'm quickly not being able to do anything. How great. Okay, so we're gonna have to restart the apps real quick because something's not working. Well, is it closing? Love it when things don't. Where are you, Trader Workstation and Task? Thank you, good night. And then I need password manager. So once we have the workstation back up and running, we are going to circle back and take a look at the short interest data, or in that case, at the stock yield enhancement program of Interactive Broker, and specifically how many of my shares were lent out yesterday and the day before, and for what kind of interest rate. So now it works. Yes, now it works. Nice. Okay, so just a second while I open up the right windows. Performance and reports. There we go. Duplicate that. And we're going to get one activity report for the 23rd and one for yesterday. So here we have the 23rd and here we have yesterday. And so on the 23rd stock yield enhancement program, we had no GameStop shares lend out. We had lend out Greenwave and Cost. We're going to look at them later, and SunPower. And yesterday, we had also wrong stock yield enhancement. Oh yeah, also no GameStop. Yeah. So right now we can also fire up iBorrowDesk and see that currently there are 3.4 million shares available to borrow at Interactive Broker with a fee of 0.4%. So yeah, it doesn't look like a lot of shorting is going on, at least not at Interactive Broker, considering the amount of shares available and the low interest rate. Yeah. So with that, we actually for now again conclude our GameStop analysis. So long story short, we're in a waiting position. Yeah, it's possible. So if we didn't finish the corrective pattern, then this here would need to subdivide into A, B, C, and this here would be the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. Then we get a little bit push up, and we get the next push down. Yeah. So either way. So I consider it a possibility, or yeah, like I wouldn't say it's super likely, but it's likely enough that we get a little bit more downwards movement for the next couple of days and weeks, and to basically finish whatever pattern wave that's down here, and then from there with in between however recoveries, so like a little bit here, then down further in 5 waves, a little bit, and then we continue the journey upwards. Yeah, which would also be okay. I mean, patience is like the difference in the market. So like Warren Buffett says, the stock market is an instrument to move money from the impatient to the patient. Yeah. Yeah. Now moving on, since we already have the short interest stuff open, Greenwave. We saw that 2 days ago, 201 shares from our 300 shares were lent out, at a net fee of almost 60%, so an interest rate of 120% almost. And yesterday that interest, so the amount of shares stayed roughly the same and the interest rate also stayed roughly the same. Where are you, GWAF there? Yeah, so we're trading a little lower, but considering the high short interest rate, we can also actually check that on iBorrow desk as well. So considering the high interest rate, you can see the interest rate is actually increasing. The amount of shares is relatively low for most of the time. And yeah, so I would still argue it's heavily shorted. Obviously, being shorted might also be if a stock is not, or a company is not doing well and actually on the verge of going bankrupt, in which case eventually the shorts positions pay off. But if we consider the high interest rate that people that are betting against the company are paying right now, it would have to go broke relatively soon to actually be profitable, because you also have to make back the money you paid in interest. Yeah. Personally, for my taste, I still think it's moving relatively sideways considering all the shorts positions that already have to be open. But again, I mention it every time, I do not have any kind of valid pattern for Green Wave that would suggest that there is an end in sight or so. This is really simply a play with little money, or what I consider little money, to play on potential upward movement based on potentially high short interest. Yeah. Moving on. Next one on the list was COS, if I'm not mistaken. So COS had we had 88 out of 100 shares lent out at 60%, and now a few less shares, not sure if that's the correct way of saying it, but you get what I mean, are lent out, but at a higher interest rate. We can also see that there are next to no shares available to borrow, and the interest rate is, was already a little bit higher, and but it's still like above 100%. If we look at COS, so we're still waiting for either this to turn out as an ABC or for a confirmation that this is already wave 1, 2, and we next get wave 3 up. So we're still bullish. It might, in the meantime, drop and go down by, 50% potentially for a wave C. It might, however, already be done with the corrective pattern here and go up from here. Either way, so short term, there is a potential downside, which would allow us to increase our position if we have some capital freed up by then. Long term, I'm still thinking that based on Elliott Wave Theory, we have a bullish impulsive pattern here, and so there should be more upside to it. So with that, we covered GameStop, GWAF, COS. SunPower is still recovering. The big question will be if that will turn into some kind of Elliott Wave pattern. Obviously, my positions are a little bit underwater since we technically entered here when it looked like that might develop into an Elliott Wave pattern, and then it didn't when they made some bad announcement. We're going to hold on to those shares and just see what happens, but it's obviously nice to see. I should have doubled down here, but hindsight is always 20/20. So should have doubled down here to obviously average down and recover a lot, but didn't do that. So we're going to keep an eye on it. So far, there's no pattern. I like solar energy. We'll see if the company actually has something positive to announce in the future that will change the direction, or if it will eventually just end up at the bottom and the shares will become worthless. That brings us to, what does it, one second, what does that bring us to? It brings us to NVIDIA, where we talked yesterday during the stream. Yesterday we were around, today's what? Yesterday was the 24th, yesterday we were still around 120 or so when we talked about it, and I pointed out we should reach at least 110. So we see that we reached the exact minimum target for a wave A, B, C. That actually is not needed anymore, that we needed in previous streams. So I'm not saying that this here is finished, but we can triple check in quotes, because if this is wave A, this is wave B, and this is wave C, that needs to be 5 waves, where I would assume that this is wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if this is indeed wave 3 and wave 4, then we get these profit targets here. We reach the minimum target. The next one would be at 109.33. And there are, for both of those cases, there is a wave C target and there is a wave 5 target that looks like this. So there is the option that we are going to see 95 based on the wave C target. But as far as if that is indeed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we actually reached our bottom here. So while I don't have funds free right now, considering how nicely we bounced on the 100 target line here up. So 1 second. No, that's the wrong thing oh, that's the wrong line. I want to have this one. So considering how nicely we bounced here, I would actually be willing, in quotes, to go long right now in NVIDIA, although not with a huge position. So there is still the option that this pattern is not finished. I don't see it to go to 95. Right now, it would be, in quotes, a perfect ABC wave pattern. There's also the option that this is not just a correction, but that this is just wave 1, 2, and that's going to be wave 3 downwards. But in this case, we still would have 5 waves, 2 waves, 5 waves, 5 waves, 3 waves, 5 waves, 3 waves, 5 waves. So in this case, we still would expect a recovery for what's that, like 2.5% roughly to recover before we continue the journey downwards. Yeah. So in other words, I think that here it's more likely now that we are going up because we finished a super nice ABC pattern, and we probably will get to see the next 5-wave impulse slowly develop upwards. And yeah, then we had SPY, where also yesterday during the stream I mentioned, okay, that we should probably expect, that's for today. No, that was also yesterday, huh? But that's yesterday morning. Are we on a 4-hour chart? Yeah. So yesterday, I think we were around the 446 during the stream. Yeah. So somewhere here. And I mentioned that we should expect the 546 and that we should expect the 540, which is again, ABC perfect matchup. So which makes it possible, not guaranteed, but makes it possible that this is actually really our bottom here for a corrective pattern. And we slowly will get to see the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 develop. I don't have funds available right now, so everything is locked up. But if I would both in NVIDIA and in SPY with a very, very small fraction of my portfolio, basically buy call options or buy shares or however you want to do it. The problem with both of those trades, however, is there is no clear stop loss. So you could put your stop loss at the latest low, but then it's possible that we just get one minor push and then the rally upwards starts for the next 5-wave impulse, and you kind of like will feel like an idiot. So it's hard to determine the stop loss here. That's why I also would actually prefer buying call option, where you pay a certain amount of premium, and that's all your risk there is. You don't have to worry how much it goes in between, in quotes, as long as by the end it's in the right direction. And so, yeah, like prices for the SPY call options are probably not that high right now, or let's see, depending on the expiration. We're right now at 541, and we were at, yeah, so I'd probably go with 550 or so even as an option, or 45, 550. And so if you take those here, yeah, so it's like a $700 risk or $500 to $700 risk. But it also gives you 3 weeks time. So, and if we are correct, and that actually was the finishing of wave 1, wave A, B, C, that's then till what? Till 16th of August. We are 16th of August. Yeah, that's even further ahead. Yeah, so that's here. We definitely should have seen then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 develop. Maybe not fully finished yet, but the option should definitely pay out and be in profit. Again, unless I'm wrong, but from the looks of it, we would have a perfect ABC pattern, both in NVIDIA and in SPY, probably also in the NASDAQ. We didn't look at it for some time, but if we check here, there it's harder, so we would need to open up the NASDAQ futures that trade 23 hours, basically. Not sure if that ticker is still accurate. Let's see if we get data or not. Yeah, gonna have a sip. Don't forget to hydrate, guys and girls, if some are watching. Okay, that's the wrong ticker. Let's just remove it. So yeah, don't have the right ticker at hand right now for the Nasdaq futures, where we have a little bit more data. Although in the Nasdaq, so if we look here, it looks more like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we would still expect an ABC recovery, and then in the Nasdaq, however, another drop. Yeah, tricky because Nvidia obviously has a huge impact on the Nasdaq, and in Nvidia we actually would currently say no, we are good to go for a wave up. And yeah, what else do we have? Immersion is making its way upwards, but still unchanged. It could still be A, B, and we get wave C down before we move further up, or it's still possible that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 now in progress that takes us to 1484 or maximum 1730. Either way, we're holding the few shares that we have there, and just we'll see how it develops. And with that, we actually covered everything that matters. Yeah, so there we go. So I think that's it for today. Yeah, there are no questions in the chat, so nothing you guys want me to analyze for you. So we're gonna call it a day here. Yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on GameStop as usual. For the rest, we have position, most of those positions are anyway long term. So it's like even if it goes down temporarily, not a big deal. Yeah, like I have to say, however, like let's finish the stream with a little bit of yeah, like how I perceive things. Ever since I switched to Interactive Broker like 6 or 7 weeks ago, so in the middle of May, and started to more actively trade the wheel in quotes, so selling cash secured puts and then selling covered calls if I have the shares, trading has become so much more relaxed because I really don't have to care that much how the stock moves. Of course, I still have the risk that I miss out on profit if I sell a covered call and the stock shoots higher. I have the risk that if I sell a cash secured put and the stock plummets, that I hold it at a price or with a like relatively high loss or whatever. But it's overall so much more relaxed and less stressful than holding the actual shares or even leveraged shares, because I don't have to care that much about the interim movement of each asset. Same goes for, I used to trade the Nasdaq partially with 20 times leverage and had some huge successes and also some really like mind-shattering losses, yeah. And trading the SPY instead, because my portfolio is too small on Interactive Broker to do the same with the Nasdaq, but trading the SPY here and there through buying put or call options is just so much more relaxed because the risk is so is better determined. So it's clearer how much my maximum risk is, and the profit potential, while not as good as trading with a 20 times leverage in quotes, is still great, yeah. And yeah, so of course option trading is not for everyone and so on, and like with every kind of trading, a lot of people lose a lot of money and so on, and who knows, maybe I'll also eventually lose a lot of money with option trading. So far it's been going well, but it's only a short period of time since I switched to Interactive Broker, as we know. But either way, I just want to say, like, less risk and more long-term thinking definitely makes the whole trading journey so much more relaxed and easier than always trying to chase big profits, because they also will involve huge losses that might be hard to stomach. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Don't forget, like, subscribe, enable notifications so you don't miss out on future streams. There will be no stream tomorrow since my wife and I are having a short weekend getaway trip. And so the next stream will likely be on Monday, as always, 5 minutes before market open. And with that, I'm going to say again, thanks for tuning in. Have a pleasant weekend and a lot of success trading, and then see you all in another stream next time. Till then, bye-bye.